Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, where we break down the latest and greatest in the gaming world. Or sometimes we uncover not so great, so you don't have to. Today I'm talking about a game that many of us have been waiting for over a decade. Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2. The hype was real, and I know many of you like me were counting the days for this one. But does it live up to its predecessor? Or it is another title that is using nostalgia to cover its flaws? Spoiler alert, there is a bit of both going on here actually. Stick around because we are diving deep into everything. The good, the bad, and the downright frustrating. But hey, before we get too far into it, if you're enjoying these game reviews that are honest, no nonsense, and really get into the details, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel to grow and ensures you will be first to know when the next video drops. You won't want to miss it. Alright, let's dive in. Let's start with obvious. Space Marine 2 is riding the nostalgia train hard. If you have played this game in 2011, you remember the over-the-top action, the brutal melee combat, and of course Captain Titus. Well, Titus is back, but this time he has been elevated to a Primaris Space Marine, which for those who are deep into the Warhammer 40,000 lore is a pretty big deal. The developers definitely understood that this character needs to be larger than life. You can feel the weight of every step, every swing of the chainsword, and every bolter round fired. And for that, I'll give the game credit. It nails that power fantasy. But does nostalgia alone carry the game? Well, unfortunately, not entirely actually. There are some major cracks underneath this power armor, and they start to show the deeper you get into it. One thing I absolutely have to give credit for is the visuals. Space Marine 2 looks fantastic. Sabir Interactive did an incredible job with the atmosphere. The dark creamy settings for a war-torn galaxy feel alive. The Tyrannid swarm you face absolutely terrifying, especially in numbers. The way they move, the way they climb and surround you feels chaotic and claustrophobic in all the right ways. The attention to detail is pretty stunning. The environments classy 40k, gritty, gothic, and absolutely dripping from the weight of millennia of warfare. The combat animations are smooth, the executions, man, they are glorious. Whether you are stomping on a Tyrannid's face or ripping through Fortress with a chain sword, it feels visceral. And it's what we love about the series. They really managed to capture that larger-than-life feeling that Space Marine should evoke. But while it looks and feels awesome in short bursts, things start to underwhelm when we dig into gameplay itself. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe to it cause it helps me a lot to making these videos. The combat is a mixed bag in Space Marine 2. Let's talk about the good first. It's all satisfying. There's a nice balance between gunplay and melee combat. Changing ranged attacks into brutal mini kills flows really well, and the variety of enemies keeps you on your toes. It is especially great when you are against hordes of Tyrannids. Seeing them swarm towards you while you mow them feels epic. However, where things start to fall apart, the controls and mechanics feels clunky. Particularly the pairing system. In theory, you're supposed to time and parry and execute these amazing counterattacks, but in practice, you often get stuck in animations, which makes combat feel more frustrating than it should be. Half of the time, you're taking damage because you can't cancel an attack or block or parry. The pacing in these moments really slows down, and instead of feeling like a badass Space Marine, you're stuck mashing buttons trying to get out of a combo. And let's talk about AI squad mates for a second. They are not great. In fact, they're probably some of the worst I've ever seen in a while. If you're playing solo, be prepared to be frustrated as your AI brothers stand around doing absolutely nothing while you are getting pummeled. They don't cover you, they don't engage intelligently, and honestly, it feels like they're just there to revive you when you go down. This is especially a problem on higher difficulties, where the game punishing mechanics become more obvious. Moving on to the campaign, it is relatively short, only 6 missions long, which might leave you feeling a bit short-changed considering the 13 years wait. The story itself is decent. It has some great moments, especially for long-time fans of the franchise, but it's not groundbreaking actually. We get to fight Tyranids and Chaos, which is awesome, but the plot doesn't dive too deeply into the lore. I would have loved to see more character development or more intricate storytelling. One of the major issues with the campaign is how it feels clearly designed for co-op play. If you're tackling this solo, you're really missing it out. There are missions where it's obvious you need more than just yourself to handle the enemy waves effectively. It feels like missions were balanced around having 3 players, which is fine if you have a squad. But if you're alone with those AI-controlled brothers I mentioned earlier, good luck with that. Now let's talk about multiplayer. This is where the game could really shine. But there are a few issues here as well. The PvP and PvE modes are fun. They don't feel fully fleshed out just yet. PvP in particular has class balancing issues. Some classes may feel overpowered, while other classes just seem like filler. On the plus side, there is a good range of customization options for your Space Marine in multiplayer. You can deck out your characters with different armors and weapons, which is cool if you're into cosmetic side of things. That said, there is no noticeable lack of content. After you've completed the campaign and tried out the multiplayer modes, there are not much left to keep you coming back. Sure, you can replay the campaign on the harder difficulty, but the missions are pretty linear and don't offer much in the way of replayability. Unless you're a diehard fan of the 40k universe, you might feel yourself moving on to other games sooner than you expected. So, here's a big question. Is Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2 worth your time and money? Well, it depends actually on what you are looking for. If you are a huge Warhammer fan, you will have a lot of love here. The visuals, the atmosphere, and the fan service. It's all top-notch. But if you're coming for tight, polished gameplay and a long-lasting experience, you might be left feeling disappointed. There is no doubt that this game has potential. With a few patches to fix the clunky mechanics, maybe some added content down the line, it could really shine. But as it stands right now, it feels like a bit of a missed opportunity, especially given how long we have waited for this. My advice? Well, maybe hold off for a sale or wait until the developers iron out some of the bigger issues. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. If you found this video helpful, or if you have just enjoyed hanging out with me for a bit, please hit that like button. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe for more reviews like this one. I've got plenty more content coming on the way, so stick around.